we can do a quick round, but then please keep it very plain and simple to say your name and what your interest in Siwa is. That will help me to understand how to possibly combine interests.
Start with Mustafa.
Yeah?
I will talk about Mustafa.
Oh.
It's much better than Mustafa. So Mustafa Kalati is the lawyer of our family. We are working on Siwa farms in Abu Sharuf, and Mustafa is lawyer. So that's his involvement with our.
My name's Naji, and I've known Case for a few years, and I'm sort of interested as a potential investor, and maybe I can bring others depending on the feasibility. I'm a church leader, so I would like to see how this relates to some of the potential connections with the broader vision of the church. So one of the projects that's international it's called Arosha. This is an organization. It was founded by Christians, but it's not intended to be exclusively Christian. They are interested in building awareness around ecology and values that are shared among religions and people who actually are concerned about the future. And so they want to see projects rise and possibly doing something with Siwa or in Egypt would be one of the things that we talked with them about.
Mohammed Ketib. I'm actually British technically. Right? I have been visiting Siwa just leisurely for the last year, but I've fallen in love with it. This is my wife. We both love the place. We found a nice plot of land in Bahayuddin, and we're going to partner. We've already started the partnership with a local Siwan. I'm not a fan of buying land from locals. I'm a fan of working with them. Okay. We aim to build an eco-retreat. Okay. I don't want to say too much about it because it's still our baby, and I don't want to give away too many trade secrets right now. Okay. But from within that, we are looking to preserve Siwan tradition and culture. Okay. A lot of things that they're currently doing that we think may end up wiping out over time. Yeah. Things like the basket production, things like that they do. We want to preserve that. We want to see if we can make it into a Siwa brand, okay, and market it. And also even with dates and olives and things like that, everyone's working very much individually now. Yeah. In other areas of the world, people have co-ops, right? And they have a collective power. Okay. So after the eco-retreat, certainly I'll be interested in seeing if we can get the Siwans together, start working commercially better. Okay. And then once we have our foot in the ground as well, I proactively want to try to get Siwans working together properly in all areas, not just commercially, but a lot of the stuff we talked about today was about he's just building his own well here, and he's doing this thing here, and there's just no process, there's no rules, there's no collectiveness.
Nobody to blame.
So, yeah, and you're just working almost against each other without knowing. So once I get an influence and credibility and people like me, for sure I want to then,
fantastic.
Bring them to.
Sounds good.
My name is Jantine. And last summer I did some research for Case at Siwa farms about which crops could be grown, and this morning I told something about the project and about the farm, and that's why I'm here.
And you want to stay involved?
You're hoping to come back?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
You're hoping to come back?
Yeah, I want to stay involved.
Okay. No. Fantastic.
My name is Margaret Sarfi. I'm working as a senior manager for local development with SIOS. SIOS is Coptic Evangelical Organization for Social Services, which started its work in 1952. We are around 700 full-time staff working in the comprehensive development, in socio and economic. One of our main fields is agriculture. So our experience came from that we are working with more than 26,000 of small farmers in 5 governorates, as my colleague Megan said earlier. We are working in Suhag, Asud, Minya, Bani Suef, Cairo, Giza, Kalubea, and recently we will move to Fayoum. So we are working in 3 levels, small farmer organization, to build on the collective power, how we can come together, because as all of us know, we have the fragmentation problem. It's a major one, so the collective power is very important, and the organization of small farmers, and then increase their productivity. Thirdly, linking them with more profitable markets, which is domestic or international ones. So we are dealing with private sector and the exporters. What we can do is, because we don't have work right now in Siwa, but we have this kind of experiences with the small farmers and dealing with new trials with small farmers. So what we can do is we can go with you in this adventure and transfer some of our knowledge to you as leaders.
Thank you.
I'm Nathan, I'm from Malta originally, but I did my Masters in Renewable Energy in England, and that's where I specialise in CSP. And following that, I have some strong contacts with companies who are interested in investing in Egypt, and also I'm in contact with my former supervisor who already works in Egypt with Helwan University and MAPS project in Alexandria, which I think was mentioned as well. But I'm also looking for more full-time position myself, so maybe something could arise. So if you do know something within CSP or energy, please let me know. Thank you. Or if you have any interest in learning more about the technologies, which I can talk to you more about. Thank you.
My name is Siwa from Laura. I work for Hendriks University, the first non-for-profit private university in Egypt, focused on sustainable development, and it's part of the second initiative, which reclaimed land, desert land, started to do that in 1977, and has considerable experience in composting and how to make desert land fertile, water irrigation. Now at the Hendriks University, this is then evidence-based and through research and improved.
Imran Fatih Kilani Siwa.
I don't speak Arabic, so maybe somebody can. Yeah, okay, good.
كيلاني عضو اللجنة الدائمة في سيوا، وابن الشركة قبيلة هناك اسمه والد الشركة الكيلاني.
He is a member of the permanent committee in Siwa, and his father is the son of his father is the chief of the tribe.
طبعا احنا يعني منوط في سيوا في مشاكل سيوا، ومتحدث يمكن الرسمي والاعلامي على طول في اي وزارة.
He is interested in the problems of Siwa, and he is the main speaker or public speaker, official speaker on behalf of the Siwa people.
وكنت المرشح بتاع سيوا في الانتخابات اللي فاتت، ولكن ما صارش
He
نصيب
was
يعني.
running for elections.
وتدرس أي تعاون معهم في أي حاجة يعني في تعاون تقدر في أي
He's willing to cooperate in anything.
Thank you.
Yeah. My name is Abdulmomin Saeed. I'm originally an architect, a landscape architect, and a consultant of housing and environmental design and resource management. I go to the university, several institutes, but now I am giving more of my time to NGOs, and I'm a vice president of the Egyptian Water Army Association, which is linked with initiatives of Change International. It's registered in the UN. And one of the common initiatives which pertains really directly to what we are doing here is called Restoring Land, Lives and Peace. And they are doing some work in Kenya and other places. So I think, I wish we can attract them to cooperate and do something in Siwa. I really visited Siwa maybe more than 10 years ago with Dr. Beck, who was the head of the Green Party, and a group of students and professors. And I love Siwa very much. And I'm really worried, I was worried when I visited about the encroachment of unplanned or urbanization and threatening the heritage of Siwa, whether the natural heritage or the cultural heritage. So I will give my whatever I can expertise, or we can invite investors if we can.
I want to know how we connect this area of lands that is very wide. That's very wide. Who is all of this land?
Who owns that land?
Who?
We're dealing here with state land, but then you go into the argument of David Sims, and you have to look at the book of David Sims, and David Sims is making the argument that state land is in fact land that is owned by the Egyptian people. So, but the state is responsible for managing that.
One of our objectives of Salt from Texel is to be part in restoring 15 million of hectare land, salt affected land. Siwa can we asked, Kees asked us to join his project, and yeah, that's part of that objective.
That's the research farm that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
In this conference was three interesting things, which I'm interested in all these three parts, like education and university research, which is very important. And I'm connecting different universities in different kind of worlds, Jordan, Czech Republic, Italy. So many people are doing their PhD, and a very, very good idea, which I think would be very interesting. Then second things like saving of the water energy. I know some of the specialists which are also interested about this topic, and I want to give them information. They are migrant from Jordan. They are working in the similar project, and even some of them are coming in Egypt. So they could be interesting. And then the third thing, what I found very interesting is this solar energy. And also, I know, for example, a lot of experts in Czech Republic which are also working in this kind of the project. Sometimes I do like a business advisor. I used to work as a project manager between Yemen, Czech Republic and Germany, and also working with some of the investors. And they sometimes like ask me. Problem was that when I went in Egypt, all of them was quite scared to invest anything in Egypt for a lot of reasons. But he was also very interested because I saw that it's not Egyptian things, that foreigners are writing me email, answering email. So it's just here I see the international participation. So to get like more and more information, because there are like many things what actually are what I would be interested about. It's like a mixture. In Egypt, I managed to open now my agency from September, which is under education, and we also work in different projects in the education in different kind of region in Egypt.
Okay, interesting.
Your site, Siwa, will be the first place where we do our field tests of our atmospheric water technique. Another point is, one of the reasons why I'm here is investigating the possibility of getting a small CSP plant in Siwa.
And the small CSP plant, according to the local land authority, could be on our land, but it all depends on the investors, because the funding will not come, will need to come primarily from abroad. It can be something from Egypt, but it's not an issue of permissions or not, it's an issue of funding.
Maybe it's important to do things in Siwa which are also relevant for whole Egypt. So you get more commitment from the government to the process.
Everybody happy so far? You didn't speak yet, Kees.
Well, okay. Okay.
Why are we here?
No, it's not so difficult. 10 years ago, I was with an American professor, AUC, looking into developing land for KNF. KNF is a viral product and could be used for the paper industry. The American unfortunately left Egypt, and thus we were left alone, that is my Egyptian family and myself, in Abu Sharouf, Siwa, and the area is no problem for KNF because it does need deep roots, so therefore the area would be suitable. But the American left. So we are left alone with land in Abu Sharouf and need to find a solution for this. And the solution is either to use the land or to sell and to go to another part in Siwa, which is also smaller, because the size of the land was related to KNF. KNF needs a large surface in order to have sufficient quantity for production. So
So if you want to have an interest for the paper industry, then you need to have that size of land. Well, that's what happens. So these are the circumstances how we got in Siwa. I have to add hereby that my Egyptian family is outside Egypt and the Dutch member of the family is in Egypt, so that's why I'm doing this. So that's not always as easy because I've been a long time here in the country, but I'm still not a native speaking Egyptian. So I have that background. My brother-in-law is a Ghana pharmacist. My wife, because of the education of the children, is in the Netherlands and she is a civil engineer. That's my personal background here in this.
I think the biggest city farm on the southern hemisphere, which is just south of Cairo Airport, it's a 2-hectare large greenhouse built by a Dutch company, owned by AOI, local military. They're extending that now with another 5 hectares. And that triggered all kinds of other things, so involved in large things and smaller things. Also the Land Reclamation Act is one of the projects that we work on together with Wageningen University. I'm an entrepreneur. Consultancy is only one side of the business. I also own a small software company and a publishing house for education materials for primary schools. That being said, what I wanted to share with you is that I was impressed by a full day of facts and knowledge and details, and I think all of us struggle with how to process that information load now. So we probably need quite a bit of time to put every detail in the right perspective and combination to find a solution for that. So I just assume we cannot solve that puzzle this afternoon. And I wanted to make it even a bit more complicated by taking you on a small journey alongside the story of a value proposition. And my reasoning, it's a basic economic principle that the economy, by definition, exists by the grace of a difference between demand and supply. If there's no difference, no friction of demand and supply, there is no exchange of goods or materials or ideas or whatever. So we call that value. How can we bring a certain value to a market who's willing to pay for what we can offer? And in my reasoning, but that's a personal opinion and you may have a different one, I think that demand drives the production and it should not be the other way around unless you talk about different inventions, say the first car, an iPhone. We all know the example of Henry Ford when he said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. Or Steve Jobs, the example of the iPhone. There are films of 2001 of an interviewer going out in the streets asking people, would you use a mobile phone? And everybody said, no, I wouldn't use it. What if somebody would call me while I'm walking on the street? How inconvenient is that? Can you imagine? No, they can send me a letter if they really want to reach me. So our society has changed. And our society has changed so fundamentally, so rapidly, that I think that also many of the solutions, and that's a critical note to today, many of the solutions that were offered today may be outdated by the time that our kids are working with them. We are developing this whole idea actually basically for 10 years, 100 years, or even 1,000 years ahead. And when you have such a long horizon, obviously, the question comes to mind, what is our role in that perspective? I think a very humble one. It should be our kids that we would need to stimulate on how to develop the sources the ideas that we have. So, as a small trigger to keep us awake, I will spend 5 minutes now on 3 stories. So, Jantina, if you could quickly go to the slides. This is an example. By the end of the presentation, I have some underpinning facts for this, but we'll leave that out for now. Commodity, that's the trap. We will never want to get stuck in a commodity. If, with Siwa in mind, we would follow the track of producing commodities, we will always lose. We have a gap in market distance. We have a gap in technology to bridge. We have a resource gap. We will lose on so many fronts unless we are able to define a reason why to ask a price premium for what we can offer from Siwa. So that's the story. Oh, is it the next one already? Yeah? No, that's okay. So, maybe a cool analogy for today. This morning we heard a lot about engineering. When was this? I think in the 90s. A new connection was opened to connect the city of London with Paris. And there were ferries going across the channel. And the task given to engineers was make the journey better. They came up with an engineering solution. They knocked off 40 minutes of the journey time. Costed an incredible amount of money. To put that into perspective, if you would have approached this from a different angle, for just 100, so 0.01% of the budget, you would have been able to install Wi-Fi on these ferry boats and would have made the journey much more enjoyable or less inconvenient. For 6% of the whole budget, we would have been able to hire all the top models of the whole world and hand out free drinks to all of us during the entire journey of the ferry trip. And people would have asked the captain to slow down the boat rather than to speed it up. So it is a perception on how to solve a certain problem and ask a value for it. Please go ahead. Very tangible example for Egypt is the potato. When the potato first came around in Europe, it ended up in the hands of the potato king, they called him. This was King Edward of Germany, and he wanted a second alternative source of carbohydrates for his people, next to wheat, which was in those ages the single most important source of carbohydrates to feed the nation. So in case of a famine, society would run into a severe problem. So he introduced a potato, but nobody wanted to eat it. They wouldn't even feed it to their animals. So he came up with a very cool idea. He planted a small plot of potatoes next to his castle and had it protected by the royal guards and declared the potato a royal food, only to be eaten by the royals. And those farmers in those days, they weren't stupid. They thought, well, if something is worth guarding it, it's also worth stealing it. So they stole potatoes, started growing it, and the rest of it is history. I don't know if it's a legacy, a myth, or whatever, but it's a cool story, so that's why I tell it. You can Google it, by the way. So it's also finding a way to sell your product, even if it's a commodity, or maybe we'll eat algae in the next generation. How to package it and sell it. Gentile, please. A real life example is water. I think the entire country drinks this stuff, and I know what the price is of a bottle of this size. So we say 50 cents in euros, or roughly maybe €1. On the left side, Evian took it a bit further. Of course, you know Evian, that's a bit of a premium brand. But that's a bottle costing around €30 already. Of course, from the Evian source. And it has a special mineral profile to it. And you can make a whole technical story to it why that water is different than this water. The fact of the matter is, it's 30 times as expensive as this one because of the brand and the packaging around it. And then you would say, well, Evian, they spend millions and billions on marketing. You're right in that. The next one didn't, Bling H2O. The only reason is that bottle is costing €150, by the way, because it has Swarovski crystals in the logo. And is only sold in restaurants. And certain people take pride in having that bottle on their table and showing it off to others. It's the same as Chinese, in many cases. Are they gone by now? Yeah. Okay, sorry. Tend to drink very expensive French wines, while the organoleptic profile of Chinese is not geared to wine. They still drink these expensive wines. And the bottle on the right may surprise you, that's actually the most expensive I came across. It varies between 60 and 80,000 euros, and that's because of the piece of art it comes in. So you basically buy the head, or whatever it may look like, but that defines the price. These two brands don't have expensive marketing budgets. They use media in a very smart fashion. They use their brand ambassadors, so specific celebrities to associate with them. That's how they build their brand from bottom up. And the last one, I think. Yeah. So if we get stuck in this case, draw with a different pen. Try a different solution. Take 2 steps back. Try a different angle, and see what that may lead to. And then the last is actually the one more, Tina, please. This is something to warn you for. This is Jack. Jack is from Vermont in the US. He's 15 years old, and when he is 14 years old, he came up, maybe anybody knows him? Eh? Anybody knows pancreatic cancer? Alvleesklierkanker, yeah? It's very difficult to detect, and as soon as it is detected, it's too late in most cases. So Jack lost a family friend to that disease, and at the age of 14, he spent a year Googling, researching, visiting academics, talking to people, and came up with a solution to detect it that was 10 times as more precise and 26,000 times cheaper than a traditional method. And we call these guys entrepreneurs instead of entrepreneurs. They do something for a greater good, for a societal impact. Not because of revenue per se. And that's how he, with his passion, energy, drive, can beat multi-billion dollar pharmaceutical companies, governments, academics, researchers, and develop a solution out of nowhere. And this is not the only example we will see. Our society is changing, and it's changing so rapidly from unexpected angles that I wanted to provide the window of opportunity that this can provide for Siwa. By just taking 2 steps back, putting it in a different framework, not neglecting what we've heard today. It's very important stuff, but those are ingredients of a solution. Yeah? Okay, this is it, I think. This was my analogy. Now it's time to work. We still have half an hour, right? And we better use that wisely. So what I would like you to do, during your brief introductions, I've made a few notes, as you've seen and heard. And the whole idea is that these post-its are transferred onto that wall in a little bit. So what you see here is a value chain. This is the part that we've talked a lot about today, the growing part. But of course there's a whole world before that. And in this group, I sense that this value chain is a bit different because there's a great emphasis on a societal value, on an eco-resort, a lot of NGOs here with societal ambitions, protecting the current population of Siwa against all these developments and trying to find the best position for them. So what I would like to do is that we will skip now, say, the supplies of hardware now. We're going to use these today. But we combine this as kind of the society. Is that okay for you? Different way. So, probably best, I will spend a minute or so in putting this up, but meanwhile, you can already start making a few notes, because we now have the current status. We have a projection of how we would like to see Siwa in the future, and maybe it's better to leave the current out for now because of lack of time. The future and the ideas are probably what we could spend now, say 15 to 20 minutes on. And then the last few minutes I would like to spend on actions. So I will be a happy man already if we can collectively come to 2 or 3 action points that we say, well, this could be something to explore further, and that possibly could be the themes for a next session. Yeah? Normally we spend 1 or 2 days on such a session. Now we only have an hour, so this is quite a challenge. Well, actually half an hour. Let's see how the other things are relevant. They're very relevant. So what I could stimulate you, especially for instance, if you look at this from an NGO perspective, if you want to develop the society of Siwa, this part, then there's the value to extract it from these people. So if you want to tell a story from how to use the ingredients that Siwa now has, or the ingredients that you can bring into Siwa, take in mind the value proposition that you want to bring to each of these. As for instance, is it a proposition that the CSR, or the corporate social responsibility positioning of a big supermarket would be able to use to strengthen their brand? Yeah? Is it something that we can easily connect to the main hubs in Alexandria for exports, or can we go to the main markets in Cairo, or do we want to attract tourists from a specific part? thinking always from this perspective will help you solve these. Yeah? So if you put the consumer centrally, that's eventually where every penny comes from. So that was a brief explanation. I'm going into too much detail now. Is this clear? Does anybody have questions on what is ours now? Shall we just start and go along? Yeah. That's easiest, yeah? It's easy if you stand around or grab a few of these notes, sit back again, take a pen, there are a few here. And then just take the liberty to walk around, stick it up there. I made one track for government policy here.
So you're putting them on? We just...
Yeah, or whatever you like. If you think you have... Go ahead, if you have a good spot for it. What do you think? Where should we fit this? Good. Yeah. And a tip, try to use one subject per the sufficient post-its here.
I can write it on like 3 or 4 at a time, but I don't know.
Most of it is societal there, right?
Okay.
I think.
It's fine. I don't know.
No, most of it is societal. Yeah?
So where would you...
Maar zeker. Ik zou het nu maken. Okay. Try it. But you want to do that at Siwa. Sounds fantastic. First question is, why can we do this? We have a meeting at Siwa.
So how would you grow plants without
I mean, there are fertilized.
they have to be formally educated about because they couldn't more expensive now, more expensive to buy that and actually afford it or whatever.
Probably it's more expensive.
And also I think Asia is like the problem with like someone mentioned there's a changing culture, they want it to change. They know something is happening in the market, you know, they have to find education.
Yeah.
It's like the way with the water, you know. Thanks for your talk, Gordon. Thanks for your talk.
Yeah, I was so nervous.
I can see that you were like moving along.
Yes, everything changed last minute.
Oh, really?
So I had to go way earlier than I thought.
You were thinking of an all day to like prepare.
Yeah, well, all morning. I forgot some things.
Well, the thing is, you spoke a lot more than your PowerPoint had detail.
Yeah, I did that on purpose because I don't want to like long PowerPoint.
Yeah, you overloading information. That was good, but it's something wrong with the speaker or something. People's voices weren't coming out very clear. I think it would be better if people just spoke up here with their voice.
Yeah, I would prefer that.
was in a small room.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you live in Holland now?
I agree.
Did you were showing
See what that's a challenge? Somebody has to
Maybe.
build and pay for the facilities. Build and
I
pay
was
for the
thinking of moving there. So I really like the result of PhD engineering.
Yeah, it's good. It's
I like cycling as well.
oh, really? Wow. Then it's all perfect.
No, I feel a bit regret that I can go. But, you know, I can do it. I've lived in your here. I just moved here a month ago from Bangkok. I was in Bangkok. Thailand. So I went from England to Bangkok. I thought that would be quite chaotic. And it was. I was in a village in the university. I went to Bangkok and it was just chaotic. But then I came to Cairo and like it's even crazier here.
Yeah. Yeah, I never went to Bangkok, so I wouldn't know.
It's overrated. Everyone says
yeah, this is so much chaos. When I just came here, it was like, whoa. Everyone's working. What? I feel like offended because in Holland, everyone does that when they're angry, you know? Where they want to warn you. And I was like, whoa, what's happening here? But you just have to get used to it.
it's like an aggressive thing here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's so aggressive. People are nice. Yeah.
They just do it.
Okay, I'll just put it up
They
there.
don't know that they're there because they don't follow the rules.
Okay.
Just to know publishing books for education. Then I have
No, we don't do books. And it's all elementary school. Only
I take
small
it
kids.
aggressively. When you sleep all night,
Up till the age of 12.
Here a bit. That's so great.
which kind of books?
No books, only online.
Yeah,
Only online lessons.
some people are quite nice.
Yeah.
It seems like they're all aggressive.
People are very friendly, but sometimes I think
It's only
that
online.
just
It's only in
why
US and
they think we're we have they come to us like, and I don't mind
It's like we're just, yeah, that's
but there are a lot of good people here.
yeah.
There's no wrong with this. There's no wrong.
Yeah, I will be in Cairo.
Are we exhausted already?
And I'll go to Luxor with
Drained of
my
ideas.
when we come back.
I'm going to look for later this month as well. Before you go to the States, he's going to announce it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will go there like next time and next time
Okay,
and
yeah.
see on my own, and I will send you the project.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, look forward to it.
Yeah, really, I'm not
Yeah.
joking.
Yeah, excellent.
It's also very simple last night.
Your card, at least. I don't.
I just made it last night.
Do you use WhatsApp on this number?
Yeah.
Then I will send you a message.
Has that solicited the lawyer got? The lawyer.
Denk maar niet.
Okay, more ideas, Nadine.
Huh?
More ideas.
No, I cannot think of anything more.
Okay. Now let's just start to work with this, see where it takes us, and hopefully something comes out of it. I've took the liberty to mark a few comments that you gave, and I will just yell out a few comments. No need to mention if they're yours or not, but we'll try to find out if there's a connection between the stuff that we put on that side and on this side. So it seems that we have a few ingredients of what we currently have or where we want to move to. We have, we have local heritage, we have artists, we have kashif, we have a local fragile ecosystem that we want to preserve. Organic, I think that's already for a big part the aim, or maybe even the case there. And on this side, we have presumably more apparently off-the-grid living, secluded and environmentally sustainable living. Also not too expensive housing, a simple lifestyle. I assume that's both for the current Siwans, the people living there now, and the addressable market. Is that right? I don't know who put it on there, but boost the economy. That's likely the local economy. But hopefully the broader impact. And then we have some odd ones in here, like linking with hypermarkets.
I think they already are.
They already are, yeah? Because
I've seen Siwa dates over there, over there.
Yeah? That's how you, okay, that's how you mean. That's the branding part of it. Okay. Yeah. It's not building a 30,000 hectare farm and pushing it in the hyper, okay. What was it? Cooperative. There was a processing, centralized packaging and processing center. Post-harvest?
Post-harvest processing.
Oh, right there.
Yeah.
How big can it get? Yeah. For the small-scale farmers, or is this projected to be a big thing?
And even for the small one.
Yeah.
Because we have it in our scale,
Yeah.
which we can have it in a small scale and a larger scale. Of course, anything you do in the larger scale is more cost effective, but it works even for the small one.
Bingo.
We are doing at the village scale.
Yeah. So cooperatives, do we see that generally as an opportunity here? I think more people have mentioned it already. How do you regard that from your solutions perspective? Maybe do you have an idea on that?
Sorry, for what? For this?
For building local cooperatives of farmers.
Not so easy.
Yeah.
We've been talking with Dalia Gouda about this because of a book of social capital.
Yeah.
And the issue in the Delta and in Fayoum where our research is that farmers use the same source of water and therefore are forced to cooperate. In Siwa, everyone has his own well and therefore is only looking at what the own well is doing for their own piece of land.
Yeah.
And then I speak about new land, not speak about old land for Siwa. So I have to distinguish, of course, in Siwa between old land and new land. But new land, that's a very difficult thing to see that cooperation happening. They are not doing this because they're independent on their own wells. I wish they would.
Yeah. Cooperatives, just to make a side note, you can see from two perspectives. You can see from the side of optimizing your inputs or optimizing your outputs on the branding side. And in this context, I would regard it from this side. If we're building a Siwa brand, that's where the collective has to come from. So then a centralized post-harvesting would mean combining for grading, packaging, and sorting. You have a consistent output of these farms. Any comments to that? No?
I think that is very important to create an extra higher value on the brand Siwa.
Yeah.
And then you need to incorporate that you have a standard higher quality or high, what is quality?
Yeah.
I mentioned the higher nutrition.
Does that
then you have
culturally
to
work?
cooperate with each other.
Yeah. Would it culturally or societally work in Siwa? Is there, what do you call it? Are people willing to cooperate there? Are they open to share knowledge, expertise?
If there's a benefit,
Show me the money. Yeah.
Money talks.
Yeah.
Money talks.